Hi folks, welcome to the Smash Grapes Charcuterie and Wine Tasting Kit. Now, we're not going to tell you which snack goes with which wine. The truth is, the combination of fat and salt will really bring out the flavours in any of the wines. Coming up, you've got our 6 drink-along videos with a little bit more information on the wines in your kit. Enjoy. This is Le Xian Blanc from the Roussillon in France.
Yes, no grape variety to speak of here, as we are drinking a field blend, meaning a variety of grapes are planted in the field, usually in no order, with not much record, harvested all together and made into one wine.
So, not what we're used to then when it comes to looking at wine. Is that something that's new?
No, quite the opposite actually. Field blends are a more traditional way of growing and making wine. The idea being that as different grapes do better in different weather conditions, you hedge your bets by having a decent variety growing across the field. That way, whether it's a particularly hot year or a particularly cold year, there's always going to be a consistent crop.
Okay. So vineyards or winemakers that specialise in just 1 or 2 grapes, that's actually the new thing.
Yes, that's right. Having what we call a single varietal wine is actually a fairly modern concept, something that came in with the rise of New World wine regions. However, it leaves them open to risk. If you have the perfect temperature or climate to grow, say, Sauvignon Blanc, and then one year it's freakishly hot, the Sauvignon will suffer. You'll either get less wine or it will taste different, which usually leads to price changes. With field blends, having different players that can do well in different conditions, you're going to increase your chances of winning.
Okay, so that's all well and good, but how am I going to know that I'll like a field blend if I don't know what's in it?
Just like any wine, it's less about the grape and more about the climate of the region. This is the warmest part of France, and the ABV of this wine shows that 13.5% these grapes have soaked up the southern sun and ripened up fully, creating lots of sugars to mostly turn into alcohol. Great, but also create rich tropical fruit flavours. It's the heat of this part of France that creates a pretty full-bodied white wine.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely taste the extra weight in this one. The body is how it feels in the mouth, isn't it? Like the difference between skimmed and full-fat milk. There's definitely a thicker kind of texture to it. So what am I eating with this one then?
This is a big white wine, so it could probably handle a bit of pork, perhaps some herby chops or a bit of belly with like a creamy sauce.
Oh, I'm all over that.
Cheers.
This is Centellio Aeron Moscatel from La Mancha in Spain.
Yes, here we have a blend of Spain's most widely planted white grape, Aeron, with a hint of Moscatel, the Spanish name for the French grape Muscat, which pops up in sweet wines all over Europe. This is no sweet wine though. Aeron blends are the staple of what the Spanish like to call, and a style we love, table wines.
Now, I'm a big fan of table wines because I think they're the very symbol of what wine should be about. No fuss, no frills, just really tasty, really easy drinking. They don't need to be the centre of attention, more like the accompaniment to whatever's going on, a great family meal, a wedding, whatever that occasion is.
That's right, and the Spanish, particularly in La Mancha, are excellent at these types of wine because they have been doing it for so long. Every man and his dog is making their own wine in this part of Spain, and they make it for one reason only: quenching thirst. But there is a bit of science behind it. Aeron is high acid grape variety. It maintains acidity even when fully ripened in the Spanish sun. Acidity is the mouth-watering, thirst-quenching element of wine. Muscatel adds a little sugar, not too much though. This is not a sweet wine, but a touch of sugar in wine is what makes it moreish, and that's exactly what we have here. Thirst quenching, but moreish. You could sink a whole bottle accidentally very easily.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, what makes this a great table wine is it just tastes so fresh, like they've just squeezed it off the vine and into a glass. Am I imagining that?
No, not at all. That is actually the result of what winemakers call only free-run juice. Basically the juice that comes straight from the grape naturally as they are pressed under their own weight. No hardcore mechanical pressing here to squeeze out every drop. That tends to result in bitter, astringent flavours from the skin and stalks seeping through to the wine, and you just don't have that here.
Okay. I mean, it's a staple in my house, and I'm guessing it's going to go with most things. Yeah?
Absolutely. Start any meal with it. Fish, white meat, cheese, salads. Really great with tapas. A cracking all-rounder wine.
Perfection. Cheers. This is Palazzo del Mare Catarato from Sicily in Italy.
Yes, Catarato, the white Italian grape you've never heard of, as it's found only in its native home on the island of Sicily. Sicily is a fantastic winemaking region deep in the heart of the Mediterranean. This volcanic island is very exposed and super hot, meaning grapes get plenty ripe and full of flavour. Catarato is a crisp, citrusy wine with lots of tropical fruit flavours, fantastic for Sauvignon or Pinot lovers.
Now, hang on a minute, Sam. If my geography serves me right, Sicily sits about as far south as the top of Africa. It's a stone's throw from Tunisia. How on earth is it making crisp white wine? We're miles away from the cool climate needed for that.
Yes, very good, Daniel. You're absolutely right. But Sicily has an ace up its sleeve, the same technique used by the Chileans, and that is altitude. These vines will have been planted 200 to 300 metres above sea level up Mount Etna. During the day, this doesn't do a lot, but at night, altitude creates what we call in the wine game large diurnal change. That's the technical term for nights that are a lot colder than the days. This pattern of hot in the day and cold at night is perfect for maintaining acidity in grapes, which leads to wines that are crisp and refreshing.
I mean, very, very nice. And now, is it me though, or does this wine have something kind of nutty or almost like almondy going on?
You're on fire today, Dan. Yes, aside from all that fruit, there is a kind of nutty or savoury thing going on with this wine. That comes down to something we have talked about before, lees aging, where the yeast is left in after fermentation and then stirred up every now and then for a few weeks before being filtered off. In most wines, the yeast creates a dairy-like flavour, almost creamy. In Sicilian wines, it's nutty or almondy. That probably just comes down to the type of yeast they use.
I mean, excellent. And what am I pairing this one with then?
Well, it's definitely a patio wine, great on its own in the sun, but I think in keeping with the region, a light pizza like margarita or one of those nice ones with a rocket and prosciutto.
Oh, very, very nice indeed.
Cheers.
This is the Montsable Chardonnay from the Pays d'Oc in France.
Yes, Chardonnay, a grape that many will write off immediately, but arguably France's most important white grape. Not only that, but the world's most widely planted white grape.
Now, here at Smash Grape, Sam, we are no strangers to the words anything but Chardonnay. You know, what's that all about, and why are we stocking them if that's the case?
Yes, unfortunately, Chardonnay has suffered a bit of a bad rep over the last couple of decades. Thanks to some pretty shoddy winemaking in the 80s, covered up by doses of oak that would left you feeling like you'd had a mouthful of floor sweepers from Wix. Chardonnay is, however, an incredibly diverse grape. It can cope with any weather and is different depending on that weather, which is why it's grown all over the world. It also pops up in places that perhaps you didn't expect.
Champagne,
Chardonnay,
Chablis,
Chardonnay,
the Macon villages,
Chardonnay,
Domaine de la Voucher Chevalier Montrachet Grand Cru,
Chardonnay. Yes, Chardonnay makes up some of the most prestigious French wines, particularly, as Dan so beautifully pronounced, one of the many white Burgundies. White Burgundy can be summed up as high acid, crisp and refreshing, with bags of fruit and just a hint of subtle oak to add richness to the wine. These guys are pros, but they're also up their own asses. Travel not far down the road to the Pays d'Oc and you can find fantastic examples of subtly oaked Chardonnay, just like this one.
Yeah, this wine definitely feels like Bridgerton meets Moulin Rouge, classy but sexy. There's a lot I like about it. I'm guessing it's fit for a bit of a banquet as well.
Absolutely, this was one of our top picks for Christmas dinner last year and will go down brilliantly with any roasted bird. Lots of flavours in one wine, so it can suit a meal with lots on the table.
I mean, I will have it on my table.
Cheers.
This is Finca Manzanos Tempranillo Blanco from Rioja in Spain.
Yes, an unusual white Rioja from one of our favourites again, Victor Manzanos, unusual in the fact that it is 100% Tempranillo Blanco, unlike most white Riojas that start with the majority of Viura in the blend. Victor also champions some of the less historically popular parts of Rioja and into his home region of Navarra right next door.
Okay, so, not only is Rioja not a grape, but it's a region that also has sub-regions.
That's right, Rioja can be divided up into three main sub-regions, Rioja Alta, Rioja Alavesa and Rioja Oriental, meaning Eastern. Alta and Alavesa are seen as the best regions in Rioja because of their very specific distance from the Atlantic Ocean and their altitude, creating Rioja's most expensive wines. Rioja Oriental used to be named Rioja Baja, meaning lower, in reference to the altitude, but winemakers grew increasingly annoyed about the idea that it was because their wines were of a lower quality. Rioja Oriental is now seen as the new kid on the block, and all the best upcoming winemakers want to make Rioja there. This wine is such a new kid, in fact, that Tempranillo Blanco, white Tempranillo, was only discovered at the end of the 20th century and officially registered as a Riojan grape in 2007. Practically a baby in wine terms.
I mean, that's all well and good. What are we tasting in this vino then?
Well, all sorts. This wine has had 4 months in a mixture of French and American oak barrels, each giving their own flavour. Fruitiness tends to be peachy and tropical, but it's the time in wood that makes sweeter, creamier and spicy flavours. It's a real meal in a glass.
I like those woody flavours, but they've not really gone too hard on it in here, have they?
No, these Riojas are not like the reds. You've got to treat the oak aging with care or you're drinking sawdust. I think they've done a great job of keeping it fresh and fruity.
What would you eat with it?
Really, really garlicky prawns for me. It's a light dish, but packed with flavour, kind of like this.
Oh, sounds delicious.
Cheers.
This is Maybis Biscardo or Passo from Veneto in Italy.
That's right, the Biscardo family, one of the first families in Veneto to start making wine over 150 years ago. Now leaders in 2 types of wine that the region is famous for, Amarone and Soave. They make some of the world's best, and fairly pricey it is too. However, keen to stay close to their roots, they have a trio of wines, red, white and rosé, that they use all of their wealth of experience to create a tasty yet accessible wine. This is their white, and we love it.
Okay, so I know this one, and if we're talking Soave, which is a small region, then the grape is Garganega, right?
Correct, but with a bit of a twist. This wine is 60% Garganega, the wine that goes into all Soave, but also 40% Chardonnay. Unusual for this part of the world, but in my opinion, a stroke of genius by the brothers Maurizio and Martino, as it adds a richness to the wine which really punches through.
Yeah, these guys are famous for what people call dangerous drinkability. And we've got a 13% white wine here, lots of fruity flavour. Why then is it going down like lemonade? It is so easy drinking.
Yes, this is really classy winemaking. The Garganega has all the refreshment factor you would expect from a northern Italian white wine, just like Pinot Grigio. The Chardonnay, however, is really, really ripe. They actually use a technique called ripasso or appassimento, most commonly used for Amarone, where they dry the grapes out first to concentrate the sugars and flavour. It reduces the grape's water content by up to 40% before they then start winemaking. It's less common in whites, but that extra sugar, balanced with the Garganega's acidity, makes this ridiculously Moorish.
So, say more sugar, but it's not sweet.
No, we're only talking about fractions of grams per litre of wine. It's still dry. With all that acidity, being a cool climate wine, it's still got all that lip-smacking freshness you want, but that little touch of sugar is what keeps you coming back for more.
And what am I going to drink more of this one with?
All sorts really. It's an Italian grape. Pasta, risotto, fish. It's also great with mature cheese if you're more of a white wine fan but love a cheese board.
I'll take the lot.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching our drink along videos. We hope you enjoyed the wine. Don't forget to come back and spend your £10 voucher on your favourite.